Hi, I'm Grandpa, and this is Grandpa's Underworld, where I can be a little bit darker. On the darker side, comedy, whatever the heck I want to do. First of all, I want to tell you a few stories from when I was a kid. I got some that people seem to think's kind of funny once I tell them, but other people think they're kind of cruel and unusual. Either way, I grew up this way. Had some strange neighbors that seemed to be quite mean half the time. As we lived across the street from each other, we was talking one day outside their house, deciding on what we was going to do, and our other neighbor kid lived way down the street, which they didn't really care for him at all, was riding his old piece of junk bicycle up and down the road. So he stopped to come over to talk to us. Well, one of the kids that I lived across the street from, one of the brothers went over and was messing with his bike for a second. Didn't know exactly what he was doing. I was listening to the kid talk. A few minutes later, the kid that was at the bike came over and said, "Hey, Tommy, why don't you go down and ride your bike, come back and pop a wheelie and see how good you can do?" So we're all standing there watching Tommy come riding up it really fast, and he yanks back on that fork of that bike, and the wheel comes right out from underneath of him. Buries the fork of his bike right in the ground. Bike goes end over end. Tommy goes for a ride on the ground. He hops up and goes, "Hey, my bike's broke." Well, that's just one of the little episodes. Well, it was 4th of July. I believe it was probably about the same year. I believe I was 10 years old, maybe 11. We was playing with the little firecrackers out there in the front yard of the neighbor's house, when one of the old kids came out. He's probably at least 10 years older than me, if not older. He came out, and he had looked like a little smoke bomb, and he had a cigarette attached to it that was lit. And he said, "Hey, why don't you go ahead and put this over in your mom's flower bed and we'll watch it, and it would be really neat." Okay, so I run across the street. My mom had this beautiful flower bed, had geraniums and all sorts of other stuff, and I set it in there, and I ran back across the street and sat on their porch with them, and we waited for a few minutes, and then boom! Geraniums went 20 feet in the air. There was a hole about yay big in the ground. My dad came out and I got ass beat. I never knew what a cherry bomb was till that day. Well, a year or two later, I had to be 11 or 12. The Western Auto Store came out with a wrist rocket slingshot. If you didn't have one of these, you were nobody. So I saved my nickels and dimes, and I went up and got me a wrist rocket. Most people know what a wrist rocket slingshot is. It comes up, and you'll be able to pull it back, it goes across your wrist, pull it clear back to here. Boy, those things was awesome. We was finding all sorts of different things to shoot with them. Well, we knew we couldn't shoot glass windows out, and we knew we couldn't shoot cars, you know, whatever. Well, one day, my famous neighbors across the street came up. "Hey, we got some new potatoes." So we got some little tiny taters. We had a whole bucket. So they gave me some of them. And I went behind my mom's flower bed, which I blew up the previous time. I was hiding back there, and I'd raise up and fire a tater at them, and they'd fire taters at me. Lo and behold, I'd released my last tater, and there's a car going at the same time. Apparently I hit the guy. He pulled over the side of the road cussing. I ran in the house and sat on the couch, and he beat on the door, rang the doorbell, whatever. My mom answered the door and said, "What seems to be the problem?" And he started, "Rah, rah, rah." And my mom looked at me, and I said, "I don't know what he's talking about." Well, the guy had a knot on the side of his head that looked like an egg. I thought, oh my gosh. I just kept my mouth shut and went on. Well, the kids called him Tater Wart from then on out. But that's the way things happen. Well, I'm not for sure of my age, but my brother had went in to, it was 1972, because my brother went to the Vietnam War. And he was in archery. He had a real nice tournament bow and a bunch of practice arrows, and we had bales of hay set up with targets, and I'd go back and shoot the bales of hay. And well, let me back up for just a second. There was a church just south of my mom and dad's, and we'd had these bales of hay set up where they'd go land in somewhere safe if we missed. Well, back then they had oil cans that was made out of cardboard, and it was round with a metal top. So I grabbed one of these things because I thought it'd be really cool to shoot one of these. So I stuck it on the top of the bale, and I get back and I pull as hard as I can, and I hit that oil can, and it glances off, and it goes right through the top corner of the church window. Well, normally this probably wouldn't have been too bad, but church service was going on at the time. So I really did run and hide and wait and wait and wait. Nobody came out. No cops. No ambulance. I was scared, you know what. Well, finally, I went back in the house after I gathered up all my brother's stuff and shoved it back in the garage. Nothing was ever said to anybody in the neighborhood. I don't know if the people from the church hung my arrow on the wall and thought it was a sign. I have no idea. I never went down and asked for my arrow back. But that's all for tonight on Grandpa's Underworld. We love you a lot. Keep tuning in. Don't forget to sign that subscribe button. Push it down really hard several times if you have to. Make sure you get it. We'll see you later.